For this video, we take Dort Highway north through the mighty metropolis that is Flint, Michigan, and we'll get a glimpse of what the entire area is like. Oh yes, Grand Blanc Township is where we start the video. You know, I actually had a GoPro fall off of my car and get smashed along this stretch of road right before the holidays, but it's all good because I have Best Buy Total Protection, so the cost was covered. That's right, I'm a freaking snob like that, people. Kind of like the people that live in Grand Blanc Township, which is where we are right now. This stretch of Dort Highway is actually pretty new. Dort Highway used to end at an interchange with I-75, but it now extends a few miles south through Grand Blanc Township, and this portion of the highway opened in July of 2022. You can see that there's a pedestrian trail that follows the new road, which was funded by both Grand Blanc Township and the Genesee County Road Commission, so residents of the area that are able to no longer have an excuse to not get out and exercise. Oh, come on, that wasn't that funny. Well, Grand Blanc Township is not to be confused with the city of Grand Blanc, as the city of Grand Blanc is located within the township, and the two are technically separate municipalities. With that said, they're often both thought of as the same area, as the area is just referred to as Grand Blanc. Not many people say Grand Blanc Township. And Grand Blanc is often thought of as the best place to live in and around Flint. The schools are the best in the area, crime is under control, and property values are at least decent. There are other places around the Flint area that are nice too, such as Flushing, Davison, and Schwartz Creek, but with Grand Blanc being southeast of Flint, it's closer to a larger selection of amenities in Oakland County to the south, and if you end up working somewhere in Oakland County to the south, you have a better commute. So, Grand Blanc has a geographic advantage over the others from that regard. And now, time to take a look at the stats, as Grand Blanc Township is home to about 40,000 residents and the median household income is $74,000 per year. 42% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and the median value of owner-occupied housing units is $185,000, while the poverty rate is a low 7%. The only number here that is lower than the national average would be the home values, and that speaks to the local economy more than anything else, as Genesee County continues to lose residents year in and year out. To the right is the former General Motors Grand Blanc Weld and Tool Center. The plant opened in 1942 and it closed in 2013. Upon closing, the massive plant had only 350 or so hourly workers, which isn't much for a plant of this size. The workers were transferred to another plant in the Detroit suburb of Warren upon closing. And early on, this plant was actually used to manufacture tanks for World War II, which is true amongst most of Michigan's older auto assembly plants. No, wait, what's that music for? Turn that off. Not yet. We're not ready for that just quite yet. This is Burton, not Flint. Or, as people have told me, it's Burt-tucky. There's even a festival here called the Burt-tucky Days. You gotta be kidding me. Is that real? That's real? Wow, that's actually a real thing. There's a festival in Burton, Michigan called the Burt-tucky Days. There's even a Facebook page for it. Unreal. So every year, you're telling me that a bunch of area hilljacks, nincompoops, and country bumpkins band together to form what is the Burt-tucky Days. You know, I bet they get drunk and have incest at these roadside motels. Apparently there's a redneck parade that's a part of the festival too, but regardless of the parade being called the Redneck Parade, I bet you that everyone who attends this festival and watches this video will be offended by my rude remarks, and if that's you, I'll encourage you to go take a bath in some Mountain Dew and cool off a bit. I'm sure you'll feel better. Well, let me tell you, you might be a redneck if you attend the Burt-tucky Days. How embarrassing. I'm sure half of the crowd drives pickup trucks with male genitalia being attached to the trailer hitch too. Oh, and the truck is lifted even though the driver never goes off-roading. Ever. And there's a huge American flag decal on the back window. Sometimes it's a Confederate flag. Don't forget the chewing tobacco can in their back jean pocket. Now that's hilljack culture for you right there. I know this crowd. I know it well, and I'm scared of this crowd. Real talk. I lived in southern Indiana during the early 2000s, and it seemed like I saw that pretty much every time I left the house. These are the types of people who are scared to leave the house without bringing their guns. Oh, now I just, oops. I just rubbed half the people the wrong way, and I just made this political. Yeah, my bad. All right, talk too much there. All right, well, for those who haven't been able to tell, I'm just making a stinking joke in light of you because you have a festival called the Burt-tucky Days. You kind of deserve it. Well, anyway, let's talk about something else, the economic stats for Burton, which are very Kentucky-ish, hence the name Burt-tucky. Burton is home to 51,000 residents, and only 17% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher. The median value of owner-occupied housing units is $104,000, and the poverty rate is 16%. So Burton isn't horrible, but it's not that great either in that sense. When it comes to the crime rates, Burton sees double the national average in violent crime and slightly more than the national average when it comes to the property crime. At least the schools are rated as a B- on niche.com, so that appears to be Burton's saving grace. Wow, I was very mean to Burton there, wasn't I? I'm sure Burton is full of nice people, and not everyone here fits that stereotype, and even the people who attend the Burt-tucky Days are probably good people too, but come on, I just couldn't help myself there. The Burt-tucky Days, that's a real thing. Well, anyway, this stretch of Dort Highway briefly serves as the border between Flint and Burton, and soon will be in the almighty Flint city limits. You've already started to see it a little bit, how the property values off of Dort Highway are pretty depressed. You start seeing some abandoned stuff here and there, and then once we get into Flint, yeah, it's a different world. Pretty sad looking, actually. We're not going to see this yet for another minute, but I'll start talking about it here, as up ahead to the left is the Dort Mall. And quite frankly, I'm surprised that the Dort Mall is still up and running. You know, I got a lot of crap for saying just that on my video that I made in this part of Flint, which was a part of my Flint series on my main channel. Go check that video out, and those series of videos out if you haven't seen those already. But yes, I was ripped to shreds by a few of the Flint area prideful, which happens to me in just about every video that I make on a city or town, as there's always a select few in any city and town that can't handle their emotions when anyone points out any kind of flaw in their city. That's what I call insecurity. But yes, by first glance, I'm surprised that the Dort Mall is still up and running, and you will be too once you see the rest of this highway, if you haven't seen it already. Fun fact, as the Dort Mall is actually owned by the same guy who owns Perani's Hockey World, which is a hockey retail store chain that's found throughout the Midwest, mostly in Michigan, but you can find it in other states too, and in Canada. And there's actually a Perani's Hockey World within the Dort Mall. If you haven't seen a Perani's Hockey World, you can think of it as a Dunham Sports or a Hibbett Sports, but only hockey. Oh, and I almost forgot. To the right is the machine shop. That's something that I also got ripped on for not mentioning in my video going over this area of Flint on my main channel, and it's not much to look at from the outside, but even though Urban Dictionary calls this a strip club, it's very important that you know that this is not a strip club. Rather, it's a concert venue that can support smaller crowds, which is actually kind of cool because, Flint doesn't really have too many places to hang out at and have fun at, so kind of cool, I guess. Alright, well, anyway, you can start to see what I was saying about Dort Highway. It's clearly not the thriving retail thoroughfare that it used to be back in its heyday. I mean, there's strip clubs that are thriving, but not much else. And I guess there's plenty of storage facilities too, but do you really want to store something here?
Nope.
And to the right is one of the strip clubs that occupy this stretch of Dort Highway. What you see here is just decade upon decade upon decade of economic decline for the area. Back in Flint's heyday, General Motors employed 80,000 workers in Flint alone. Flint also had a population of nearly 200,000 residents back then. Today, General Motors continues to be the largest employer in Genesee County. However, there are only 7,000 workers for the auto giant in all of Genesee County today. Not to mention the water crisis that drove people out of Flint at an even faster rate. For Flint, the economic stats look pretty miserable, as it's a night and day difference from what you see in Grand Blanc, and maybe even Burton. The median household income is very low, as it's only $32,000 per year, and only 12% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher. The median value of owner-occupied housing units is $35,000, and the poverty rate is 35.5%. At least you can build some positives off of the crime stats, because these used to look much worse. Flint's violent crime rate is 1,281 for every 100,000 residents, which is down significantly from its peak crime years. There have been times where Flint has seen a violent crime rate of 3,000 for every 100,000 residents, and Flint has, at times, seen the highest murder rate in the country. Those years seem to be in the rearview mirror for Flint, however, and hopefully crime can continue to go down because this community needs to see positive momentum for it to be able to come back. To the right, we just passed by one of the many brownfield sites that Flint has. This was called Flint East. Here's a potato camera street view shot of one of the buildings on the site from 2008 before it was demolished. Flint East was owned by the Delphi Corporation for a good portion of its time, and that was a company that was owned by General Motors. Most people know of this site, however, as being the original headquarters for AC Sparkplug, which was also a parts supplier for General Motors. Throughout its history, the plant manufactured spark plugs, oil filters, air cleaners, dashboards, fuel pumps, and other car parts for GM vehicles. However, as the assembly plants continued to die off in the area, that meant that there wasn't that big of a demand for auto parts manufacturing, obviously, and this site declined along with the other assembly plants in the region. The industrial complex was once home to 7 different plants and employed over 12,000 workers during its peak in the 1970s. It was also the site of a few notable UAW strikes, most notably one in 1998, where workers went on a 54-day strike. GM ended up agreeing to an investment in the complex, and that cost the company $2.8 billion. Delphi ended up declaring bankruptcy in 2005, and the plant was completely demolished in 2010, with a concrete overlay across the entire property to keep the industrial pollutants in the soil from spreading. And it goes without saying that back when Flint East employed over 12,000 workers, there were more people that frequented this area, which meant that these businesses had more customers, and Dort Highway was a much more thriving retail thoroughfare back in the day. But yes, to see more brown sites and to learn more about Flint's industrial history with all of the different assembly plants that have been in town and all of General Motors' history with Flint, go ahead and check out my Flint playlist, which is linked down below, in which all of the videos in that series is going to be over on my main channel. And if for whatever reason you found this video before you found my videos on my main channel, go ahead and make sure to check that out. Let me know down below in the comments if the algorithm sent you to this channel before my main channel. That'd be kind of funny, actually. And this looks like an abandoned used car lot. Head due west of here and you'll be at the site of the former Buick City Industrial Complex, which can be found in my Flint playlist. To the right is the infamous Flint water plant. In 2014, the emergency manager for Flint made the ultimate decision to switch Flint's water supply from using Detroit's water to supplying their own through a facility that was built in 1954 and went through decades without being used. The facility simply was outdated and wasn't up to code as it was built by 1954's health and safety requirements, and the switch is what created the Flint water crisis. The decision ended up being one of the worst decisions made by a form of government in US history, and to learn more about how that happened, make sure to check out my video on the water crisis, and that is within my Flint playlist. We're now outside of Flint, but this brief stretch of Dort Highway serves as the border between the census-designated place of Beecher to the left and Genesee Charter Township to the right. On my main channel, I have a video on Genesee Charter Township along with a video on Beecher, so make sure to check out those in my Flint playlist if you want to see more of these areas. With that said, here are the economic stats for both municipalities. Beecher is like an extension of Flint's north side, meaning that it's mostly hood, and Genesee Charter Township is an okay Flint suburb. Nothing great, nothing horrible. The best thing about Genesee Charter Township in most people's eyes would probably be the fact that there are several large parks within the township to enjoy some outdoor recreation. Well, there you have it, guys. Dort Highway heading through Flint, Michigan. You got a taste of the entire Flint metro area in this video. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, as doing all of those things helps these videos destroy the evil monster that is the YouTube algorithm. Also, make sure to hit that notification bell and select yes so that you can be notified every time that I upload a new video. If you enjoyed this video, then you might enjoy checking out some of the featured playlists on this channel. Videos with amazing insights on other places like what you saw here can be found in my Flint playlist, my American Hoods playlist, or in my Michigan playlist. Last but not least, if you can't get enough of me on here, you can always go follow me on my other social media accounts, and those links are below. We'll see you next time. Peace!